So you asked about why science, why research. At this time in history, I don't think science, research, evidence, and fact have ever been more important to tackle the big challenges we face, whether that is climate change, whether it is ocean plastics, or whether it is technological disruption. I don't have to make the case to this crowd. But when I go door to door, how often am I asked about science and research? When I explain to my community, if I want cleaner, I want better environment, cleaner air, cleaner water, we want research. If we want new medical cures or treatments, we want research. The phone that you're taking that picture with, we want research. And innovation leads to economic development. Over the last 3 budgets, we have invested $10 billion in research. Last year was the largest investment in research in Canadian history, $6.8 billion. Now, as a former researcher, I want to make sure that you have the funding you need to do your research, yes? 25% increase to the granting councils. That's good stuff. I need to make sure you have the labs and tools you need to do your research. We've just made a $762 million investment in the Canada Foundation for Innovation. But starting in 2023, for the first time in our history, predictable, sustainable funding to CFI. And you gotta make sure you have the digital tools. As today, it's increasingly about big data, big data, big data. When we invest in science and research, we invest in Canada.
Fantastic. Thank you. Which flows nicely into our second question as we sit here in front of the Dimensions Charter. We're so proud to be part of the conversation that took place before the charter was signed. So in research and academia, as in many other parts of our society, there's a real concern that systemic barriers keep out underrepresented groups, including women. So with this charter, what is being done to break down those barriers?
I'm so proud of our university for signing this charter. And we now have sort of 8 guiding principles. Now, certainly there can be others, but I think what I see with this is an opportunity when we look around the room. We need diversity in order to solve the important problems that are needing to be solved in order to have a strong, sustainable future. And diversity means we need more individuals, First Nations, we need more women, we need more individuals with disability, we need more individuals who are first-generation learners, we need more international students, and we need our male allies to be on board to support diverse learning of all of those groups, and that's what this is going to do. And so I'm so proud that we're going to now have a system in place where we can start to have those maybe difficult conversations from time to time about are we doing enough for diversity and inclusion? But it's conversation that's going to make a difference. And I'm so proud of our institution for taking the first step so that we can start to have those conversations and then have change so that we can solve more of those important science questions with the investment that the government's doing in research. So thank you for your leadership to make this happen.
Thanks, Tammy. I too would like to congratulate Laurentian University. It says something that we all want to work to make sure everyone feels they belong. And I spent 25 years trying to increase equity and diversity in science, which is where I was. And when I came into this role, I said I was going to make this a priority. I wish you could have seen the pushback I had. You can't do that. Oh, can't have those discussions. Yes, you can. And so just to give you an idea of some of the things we've done for the Canada Excellence Research Chairs, which is $10 million over 7 years. We have 28 of them in the country. We're very proud of them. Only 2 were held by women. That's a problem. So in the most recent round, I put in new equity and diversity requirements. 5 of the 8 are women. For the Canada Research Chairs, there have been voluntary targets since 2006. I pulled the data, that's what we researchers do. And in some cases, we were doing worse than we were in 2006. I said, I will withhold peer review and funding if you don't fix this. We just had 50% women nominated for the Canada Research Chairs, the highest percentage of Indigenous researchers ever, the highest percentage of racialized researchers, and the highest percentage of persons with disabilities. Which brings me to this charter. I went to school in the UK. I've always liked the Athena Swan program, which was used to increase representation of women in science. We started there, and I want to thank Laurentian and all the universities and colleges and CEGEPs that were part of the consultations. This comes from the community. It is our charter. It's the charter you've built. And it includes, it's a great start. We've added the LGBTQ2+ community. This matters. Everyone wants to go along. We hope all our institutions will sign on, and then in June, we're going to have a new pilot project. There will be letters of intent to belong to this project. It says, institutions, collect your data, set the goal you want to have, and when you achieve it, you're rewarded. Why? Because broad backgrounds, experiences, ideas breeds great research.
Are there any questions this far? Any comments? No? Okay, so we'll move on to the next point. Something that we're very proud of Dr. Eger and her contribution to the Laurentian University research culture, her contributions to academia and to practice. And for this reason, we were so happy that she was chosen, like you said, for the Onward Found program, which is a global initiative, as most of us know, to equip 1,000 women in science, technology, engineering, math, and medicine fields with the skills to lead and influence policy and decision-making, and to help create a sustainable future for the planet. Now, we already know that Dr. Eger is doing this at a local level and further than that as well, but we're very happy that you can participate in this more internationally. We'd like to hear your opinion on what else we can do to put more women in leadership positions.
Thanks, Roxanne. I think these types of things, having the charter in place, are really important. One thing that the program that I'm involved with is doing is it's sometimes what happens as women, but I mean, we all carry times where we feel that maybe we're not good enough, right? I mean, you don't have to just be a woman to carry that around. And one thing that this program is doing is it's helping the women from, they've just graduated to a postdoc to senior researchers. We're bringing 95 women from 33 different countries around the world together to learn about leadership. And what we're learning is we're having those conversations that are a bit difficult to say, you know what, sometimes I don't feel like I'm enough, that imposter syndrome. And that's what holds us back in many cases. And so by creating this network, not only are we encouraged to then go back and create a stronger network within our local institutions, but we have this global network. So if there's an opportunity where I'm thinking, I'm not sure I'm good enough, right? We have those moments of doubt. We can reach out to our network and get support to say, no, you can, and we'll support you in this. And that's what we need, is more training for all of us, so that it doesn't matter whether you identify as a woman, a gay woman, whether you identify as a person with a disability, whether you identify as a First Nation. We all have the ability to be excellent and succeed, and we just need sometimes those support networks and a team around us to say, go for it, we've got your back. And so I think this is what the program is going to do, and I hope I can bring those learnings back to Laurentian and to the broader Sudbury community, so that we can all succeed together, and our community and our university is going to be stronger for it. So as this says, it's about inclusion and diversity. We want everyone to feel they've got a place in science, in arts, in the intersection between science and arts, technology and engineering. And so that's what I'm hoping to bring back from this program.
Tammy, it really is a privilege to follow you and just to hear those comments. And it is about belonging. Everyone wants to belong. I think all of us can think of a time when we didn't feel we belonged, whether that was you didn't get picked for the baseball team in street hockey, or the baseball team in the street. You didn't get asked to the school dance. Remember how that feels, and it lasts a lifetime. In our institutions, we want as many people through the door and to feel they belong. I really hope you'll take a look at the charter, you'll learn those principles, and I hope you will look at this pilot project. For me, I loved my research. I loved my students. And Tammy's off to Antarctica. My research took me 500 miles from the North Pole. We wanted to find the cause of the 1918 Spanish flu that killed upwards of 50 million people. And I never thought I would leave the university. I love the university. But I love the community where I'm born and raised. And when I got the opportunity, I decided to leave this wonderful institution. But I hoped I could bring a researcher's perspective to the policy-making process and to show how important your work is. The work you do each and every day, that it matters. And I guess I have two messages on the hard days. Because there's always hard days in research. There's when it's going great, and then it's when it's not going so great. Which is, take time to dream your greatest dream. Take time to figure that out. Know there are challenges. I call them road bumps. You gotta figure a way over them or around them. And impossible is a dare. No one ever says that. Impossible is a dare. And then the last thing I would say is, we hope some of you will consider coming to the policy-making process for part of communications. We need your voices.
And I think I speak for everyone in thanking you for your initiative, for all your work in this initiative, and also for giving women someone to look up to. I think that's as important as being included is also seeing someone and seeing yourself in someone and someone that a role model. So thank you very much. So the next question, as the world becomes more connected, it is becoming increasingly important for research to span not just disciplines, but also countries. What benefits do you see from this, and how can we support more international research collaborations?
Great question, and I know it's something that Laurentian University is striving to do more of, and certainly I think as individual researchers, we can also play a role in thinking about, are we doing enough to try to provide opportunity for international students? And I think it's great on two fronts. So Katie, I'm looking at you, I'm going to use you as an example. So Katie's a PhD student that I co-supervise with Dr. Levers in engineering. And before we got our shaker that you see downstairs, we didn't have one yet, so Katie got to go to Italy to study with a colleague there. And I think she didn't mind the opportunity. But it was a tremendous experience, and what we've had an opportunity from there is one of the graduate students from Italy then came and spent a summer in our lab. And the learning that occurred both for him and for our students was exceptional. And we need to think about opportunities to do more of that. And then make sure when we do have our international students arrive that we provide supports for them. I had a few students that came from India previously, and we know when you hit a Canadian winter, we need to make sure that we're providing supports on campus for our students. And I think it's something that we're going to continue to have a conversation about, and we can do more, but we definitely want to have that global learning opportunity, not just for our students, but for students to come here and to have that natural exchange. So I know your government is doing more to support through scholarships as well, and MyTax programs, that internationalization, and so we thank you for that as well.
Thanks, Tammy. I loved hearing. Thank you for that story. I think all of us, my greatest joy would be seeing these world-class researchers, you have the opportunity to work internationally. And I think we haven't always made that easy. Multidisciplinary, multinational, risky research, we haven't funded as well as we could. So we've got this new fund, and you guys should all know about it. It's the New Frontiers in Research Fund. It's $275 million. That's going to double over the next few years. And it is for multidisciplinary, multinational, high-risk, high-reward research. Is that exciting? We launched the first set of awards here this morning at Laurentian University. And the first stream was strictly for early career researchers. The first 38 million went to 157 early career researchers. And one here is Dr. Celeste Pedro-Spade. And if you haven't seen her work, check it out. She's looking at 200 pieces of art that were done by children in day schools or residential schools. And they are working to identify the pieces and to return them to their rightful owners. And really important, telling the voices of children.
Which ties in nicely to our next question, which is on young researchers. So young researchers also face challenges when accessing the support they need and getting their ideas off the ground. So this new scholarship will definitely help. What else, if anything, can we do to support researchers who are at the beginning of their careers?
It's an excellent question, and I think you alluded to it that academia can be tough, right? There's lots of fantastic opportunities, but for an early career researcher, we do put a lot of pressure on them. You know, they need to publish, they need to get grants, they need to teach, they need to mentor students. And I think sometimes as a more senior researcher, maybe there's more of a role that we need to play. So I'm looking around at some of the full professors in the room, we know there's a few of them, and I think it's really now, we need to try to make the path smoother for those young researchers. And I think we need more conversations around that. Sometimes we get busy as well, and it's like, well, we did it. But, you know, I think we need to move away from those stories of, well, you know, I walked to school, you know, type thing. Great, uphill, barefoot. I mean, it might have been true. I did live in Northern Ontario. But, yeah, no, I think we all have a role to play. Our administrators, absolutely, our deans. I think we need to have some honest conversations about what we can expect of our early career researchers. In particular, if I think about early career women who have, and well, it could be young men as well who might have parental responsibilities, but when you talk about family responsibilities, we need to do a lot more to support families to be able to stay in academia. And so we've probably heard this analogy of the leaky pipeline for women in STEM, and the idea, a lot of the thinking was we just need to put more women in the system, right? Well, we know if you just add more water to the pipe, but you don't fix the holes and the breakage, that water just leaks out. And there's lots of evidence of more women entering into the academia profession, but they're not moving past maybe the assistant professor level, and many of those are then choosing to leave. So this is going to help us do some of the fixes of those systematic barriers. And I have to admit, I'm not a mother, I don't have children. Until I started having these open conversations, I've had some grad students that are mothers and fathers. And even conferences, right? We can do more to make sure there's childcare opportunity at conferences. There's a place where you can go and have quiet time with your child. So these are things that we need to do, and I think even as a university, we need to make sure there's funding for this so that it doesn't become a question of, well, how are we going to pay for it? It just happens so that we can support our early career researchers.
Tammy, I could not agree more. When I first came into this role, I asked for the data for everything. And I saw in one of the granting councils, the average age of getting your first grant was 43. how do you build a research career when you get your first grant at 43? And the answer is you can't. And that's why we're doing things like the New Frontiers in Research Fund, just for early career researchers. Another thing we've done with this last budget, there will be 500 new master's scholarships and 500 more PhD scholarships. And to your point, as I went across the country, I never wanted to hear again, you can have a research career or you can have a family. No, you can have both. But it is our job to make it easier to do that. So when I came in, the granting councils gave 3 months for parental leave, 6 months, and 6 months. They weren't even the same. I got it up to 6 months, but with this last budget, it's 12 months. 12 months, so that if you want to have a child, if you have a child, we're making it easier to do both. Is there more work to be done? Yes, but it's a start.
Yes, and I can definitely attest to that, because I had 2 children while finishing my PhD, and people ask me, how do you do it? And I actually don't remember, like I physically have no idea. It's just sheer stubbornness, yeah. And I had my own wolf pack, and remember being at conferences and my friends holding my babies while I was presenting, and I'm holding their babies while they're presenting, and we have to do it together, because we can't do it alone, right? Okay, last question. So in addition to supporting early career researchers, it's also important to make sure we're supporting young Canadians who have an interest in science. And what steps can be taken there? I think you can speak definitely, because we held one event here in February.
Yeah, super excited, and Roxanne was part of this event. So as many of you know, February 11th, I believe I'm getting the date correct, is the International Day for Women and Girls in Science. And so it started with a dinner conversation, really. We said we should do something about that. So a small group of people from Laurentian got together, and we thought we'd be lucky if we maybe filled this room. Well, we had over 200 people attend, and at least 150 of those were grade 5 and 6 boys and girls. So we filled the 18. And there was more interest. So moving forward this next year for a planning committee, we hope to bring more schools in. Who knows, whatever space the campus has, I think we'd have interest for up to 1,000 kids. So that's a start, right? It's that curiosity. Is Laurentian and our university communities should be open for all community to come in and to just start to think, what if? What are the possibilities? And that's where we have the ability to do more as researchers and to do more community outreach and to bring the young kids to campus and hopefully inspire a few. They don't all have to go into a PhD science, but even think about how might I make something better for the trades? How might I make something better in terms of even the supply chains or sectors or service industries? Just inspiring curiosity and getting people to think about, yeah, there might be some opportunities for them to become at a university or a college, and that's what we did. So more of it, but it was really a fun event, and a lot of the people in this room made it happen, so thanks to you as well.
I was telling you after the event that so I was participating, and I had this question, am I going to bring my own children? And even though it was going to be more complicated, so I went and I brought them, and my daughter is 8 and she's too young to understand these presentations that were happening, but I made her sit there and told her why it was important. And there was a senior scientist who was presenting on her, she was from biology, I think, and presenting on plants, and it was way outside of her comprehension. But she came home that night and she put on my lanyard and she gave me a presentation about plants and how she was studying plants, and I thought, oh well, that's why I did it.